Hi guys, my name is Kyle and today I'm going to talk about the lens which is in my opinion one of the most underrated lenses in Sony Emount system for macro photography. This lens is Sigma 70mm with maximum aperture f2.8. On the very beginning of this video I would like to send special thanks to guys from Stavanger Photo who was kind enough to let me test this lens for last 2 weeks. You can find the link in the description below, so if you're a photographer living in Norway, definitely check their website. Okay, I think it's time to share some information about this lens with you guys, so let's get it done. It is a prime lens with focal length of 70mm, which was initially designed for full-frame DSLR cameras. The copy which I have has additional distance ring on the mount, which makes it usable for mirrorless Sony Emount system. The focal length of 70mm gives angle of view which is around 34 degrees. The minimum focus distance of this lens is 25.8 cm, which is available for 1:1 macro magnification. Although the minimum distance from the camera is around 26 cm, there is no much space left between the lens and object. Sigma macro lens operates with apertures from f2.8 up to f22. If it comes to size, I would say that this is very standard size of the lens for full-frame cameras. What's worthy to admit, the lens is slightly shorter for DSLRs. The Sony Emount version is around 140mm tall with diameter 71mm. The lens uses pretty small 49mm front filters. It weighs around 640 grams for Sony Emount and around 515 grams for DSLRs. It is a pretty solid piece of glass with noticeable weight on your camera, which makes it a little bit front heavy. The new Sigma Art 70mm for macro is really well made. The entire construction is made out of metal. In the middle of the lens it is covered with high quality plastic, which adds some extra grip on its body. Although it is a prime lens, the lens extends while focusing, especially from macro zones. Focus in this lens is provided by well-known Sigma's DC motor, which makes very characteristic noise while focusing. Its mount is made of metal as well and includes pins which provide communication with the camera body. The entire lens contains 3 functional elements. The biggest one is focus ring, which is made of high quality plastic in order to provide perfect grip. The ring works very smoothly and allows on the best precision in manual focusing. Then you can find 2 switches on the side of the lens barrel. First one from the top allows to turn on and off autofocus, and second switch defines range between the camera and object. The lens barrel contains 13 high-quality glass elements in 10 groups, supported with 9 aperture blades which are slightly curved to provide nice and round bokeh. Additionally, both a lens barrel and a mount are weather sealed. If you'll take this lens in consideration, you have to be aware that this lens doesn't have image stabilizer. The lens comes with very solid lens hood, which is made of mix of rubber and plastic. Everything is packed in nicely made synthetic pouch. During all my tests of Sigma 70mm, I have been using it together with my full-frame Sony A7R III, which has very demanding 42 megapixel sensor. Let's start with my first test, where I checked corner-to-corner sharpness. At maximum aperture f2.8, the lens is already very sharp in the middle of the image. Sharpness is slightly reduced in corners, but it is still pretty good performance. Looking even closer in corners, I really can't find any chromatic aberrations. Closing down the aperture to f3.5, you can achieve some improvement, and the lens is razor sharp in the middle and has very good sharpness in corners. The sharpness level is pretty much the same up to f11, which is absolutely outstanding performance. Softness coming from diffractions can be observed above f16, however the image is still very sharp and fully usable for macro photography. It's time to check how this lens performs against simple grid in my test number 2. For maximum aperture, the Sigma lens has visible vignetting in corners, although that distortions and aberrations are very well controlled and I haven't observed any during all my tests. Closing down the aperture to f3.5 slightly improves vignetting, but doesn't eliminate it. Vignetting totally disappears at f5.0, where image seems to be perfect. The lens seems to render great image up to f22, where lines are slightly softer. Overall, it is a great performer. During my third test, I checked AF performance of Sigma lens together with my Sony A7iii. For this test I recorded simple video in 4K with maximum aperture f2.8, with focus area set on small flexible spot, which is placed in the middle of the screen. In general, the lens is pretty accurate and doesn't hunt a lot. If it comes to autofocus speed, it's generally good. It's not as super fast as G and GM series from Sony, but it isn't slow either. To be honest, I expected AF to be slower, since it is a macro lens and AF has never been a priority for this type of lenses. So overall I'm nicely surprised. What's worthy to mention, AF works pretty silent in video mode, what is totally opposite while taking pictures. AF also works pretty nicely and accurate for macro zones, when I was closer than 50 cm to my objects. So it's also quite nice surprise in my opinion. The only moment when the lens lags and hunt a bit shows up during change of focus from object which is placed very close to the one which is placed far away. I think the main reason for that is the construction of this lens. The delay comes from internal tube which has to pass quite long distance sliding in and out. To improve AF efficiency, it is recommended to use a switch which defines focus distance. I also checked how the lens manages eye tracking of moving person. Overall, autofocus in this lens works very well and better than I actually expected. It's very accurate and quite fast for distance above 50 cm, with average focus speed for macro zones. Finally, it's time for pros and cons, and as a first plus I have to mention that the Sigma lens provides definitely outstanding optical performance. It is an absolutely razor-sharp lens, which delivers great results for macro, portraits and can be very useful for landscape. Secondly, build quality. This lens is made in Japan and it's built like a tank with absolutely great precision. Also it is weather sealed, what only confirms top quality of Sigma's product. Although the maximum apertures slightly limit bokeh capabilities, the lens produces pleasant background blur with clean and round bokeh balls. Fourth plus are additional switches which are installed on the lens. They are very helpful, giving us quick access to manual focus if needed, and also allow to change focus range to improve AF performance. Another advantage is full compatibility with Sony cameras, which support features like eye tracking. It definitely brings great value shooting portraits. Okay, and how about minuses? In my opinion, the main problem of this lens is vignetting for maximum apertures, which disappear around aperture value f5.0. Of course, it can be easily corrected in post-production. However, that's something that has to be mentioned as a minus for optical performance. Second disadvantage is quite noisy autofocus motor. Overall autofocus is accurate and pretty fast, but sometimes seems to struggle changing focus distance from close to far away. Another thing is minimum focus distance of 25.8 cm for 1:1 macro magnification. In this situation the lens is really close to the object. In combination with noisy focus motor, it may bring a lot of difficulties taking pictures of insects. It's finally time for my own opinion. When I took Sigma 70mm for my test, I really didn't know what to expect from this lens. If it comes to macro lenses available for Sony Emount, people usually talk about Sony 90mm, new Sigma 105mm or Laowa 100mm with 2:1 magnification. After 2 weeks with this lens, I'm really surprised with absolutely amazing image quality. I also tried to shoot with this lens against sun, and I hardly get any flares. I also found this lens pretty easy to use in manual focus mode, which is definitely easier to use than Laowa 100mm. So far with this lens I was able to capture some awesome images, which become some of my favorite shots. What I also really like about this Sigma lens are build quality, weather sealing, lens hood with nicely made pouch, and all of these things which make it a real premium product. This premium product is available for around 500–550 euro in Europe, which I think is a very good value for money. It is around half of price you will have to pay for Sony 90mm macro lens. Of course I mentioned some disadvantages of this lens, but I think these are minor problems which haven't had a big impact on my workflow while taking pictures. And now the main question is if I would buy this lens. And well, it's not an easy decision for me, because I already have a Laowa lens which offers 2:1 macro magnification. However, the Sigma Art 70mm is a definitely great choice, which is way easier to use than Laowa lens. In my opinion, this lens is a very good option for people who do product photography and portraits. Most likely I would not recommend this lens to someone who wants to shoot insects, and the main reason for that is quite noisy autofocus motor and very short distance between lens and object for one-to-one magnification. But please don't get me wrong, in my opinion you can still manage to take some nice pictures of insects with this lens, however it can be a little bit more difficult than with other lenses. Overall it is a product which gives premium feeling with outstanding optical performance. Even for aperture f16 my images remain very sharp with huge amount of details. I hope you found this video useful and informative. If you do, definitely leave some likes and consider subscription of my YouTube channel. And if you have ever used this lens before, definitely let me know down in comments what's your experience with this lens. That's it for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.